Let's start, of course, with the horrific terrorist attack that Israel conducted in Lebanon over the past few days. That would be Wednesday, September 18th, and it began September 17th, the Tuesday, where thousands of pagers were detonated. Israel, according to ABC, infiltrated the supply chain, was actually involved. Its intelligence operatives were involved in the production process. Many have been killed by this, over 30, and there have been children killed. And Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, has declared a state of war. Israel is now bombing Lebanon to an increased degree, saying that they are in a new phase of this war. Maybe we can bring you in, Margaret, first. What do you make of all this and where this is all going? Because we have all been covering what's happening in West Asia, Gaza, and it seems to me that things keep escalating, and that regional war that everyone is very worried about worldwide appears much closer.
Yeah, well, thanks, Danny. Israel is continuing to try to get the United States to attack Iran in particular, but to be involved in a wider war. They've taken it to Lebanon. They've taken it to Syria. And so that's the first thing. If in case anybody's like, why would they do this now? They need U.S. help. They need U.S. military help. They cannot defeat Hamas. It's almost a month now since this war, this genocide, the war crimes have been going on. And Israel wants Iran. They've wanted, I don't know how many administrations now, they've wanted the U.S. to attack. So they're hoping to goad Hezbollah, to goad Iran. We've been waiting for some kind of Iranian retaliation for the assassination of the Hamas leader who was in Iran at the time. So that's why this is going on. But it's a war crime, and it's sickening to see people think this is cool, like a James Bond movie, that people were killed. Who carries pagers now? Doctors and nurses, for the most part. That they killed medical professionals, killed patients. And what does the ICC do? What does the ICJ do? These international organizations that are supposed to maintain international law, when it comes to Israel, they are useless. So the ICC will do what the US says and declare Putin a war criminal and issue an arrest warrant for him. And there's still nothing for Netanyahu or any of his top people who have, for the past year, bragged about their war crimes. It's the most visible, most documented genocide, I think, in history. So those are my initial thoughts on this.
Garland.
Margaret's covered it so well. So I'll add a couple of other things to this. Then I'll go from a little different perspective, because I can't think of anything more to add regionally regarding the regional war issues. I'll say this is also interesting. I think that there will be significant fallout regarding Western technology. I would imagine right now that, like me, I'm looking at my cell phone thinking, holy crap, you know what I mean? Am I walking around with a bomb? People are going in the West, and people in the global South really are all going to look at Western technology and say, if you're building, for instance, the Sahel region in Africa, and they're trying to build a security agreement, they're trying to build a security team so they can kind of huddle their countries together and protect themselves from Western imperialism. They have to now be looking, saying, oh crap, let's call Huawei. Let's look at some of the global South trustworthy companies that we can buy technology from, whether it's computers, phones, or whatever, because if we buy Western technology, they can blow us up on any given day. So I think that it is, I'm not going to say a good thing. It is a revealing thing for a lot of countries in the global South, outside of the sphere of U.S. and European imperialism, to understand now that that is an in for the imperialists, that they can use your phones, your computers or whatever. So when they're putting together their security teams, their government teams, whatever, they're going to have to now say, you know what, we can't buy this Motorola ICOM US made in Taiwan crap anymore, because we're walking around with, basically a bomb, and inroads from the imperialist.
Yeah, and on this front, you have the Taiwan-based company Apollo Gold saying that they subcontracted to a Hungarian company, BAC, and that company is now being scrutinized because the ABC has reported that Israel was directly involved in this production process, that Mossad had their hands in it, many intelligence operatives. And this is coming from the United States. But yet, and I'm just going to play this video from the spokesperson, or one of the spokespersons, the national security spokespeople, John Kirby. Here's what he had to say about the incident, similar to how Israel consistently denies any involvement in these kind of attacks, although this time it is impossible to deny, and they've been actually very open. The United States is the one that is claiming deniability here.
Our sources have confirmed to us, it's been widely reported that Israel is responsible for this, but notably you still won't say that. Why is that? Is it because that's not your assessment, or because you don't support what they're doing here?
It's because I don't have anything more to add on this issue. As I said, there was no U.S. involvement, and I'm not going to go beyond that today.
Then let me ask this. These kinds of tactics, blowing up pagers and walkie-talkies, is this type of warfare acceptable to the United States?
Again, Mary, I appreciate the question. I'm simply not going to be able to address these incidents over the last couple of days in any level of detail one way or another.
So that's what you get. But on the war front, you have, of course, Israel conducting increased bombings, Margaret, but you also have this reality that I think is setting in, which is Israel and the United States are caught in a long war. Hassan Nasrallah said this in his speech today. He said that this is a war of attrition that is actually working out in favor of the Palestinian people, because it is one of the fronts that Israel simply cannot figure out. And that is part of the reason why they are doing these kind of monstrous attacks. What do you have to say about those comments, and also the wider reality of what is happening here? You said yourself that Israel has not been able to defeat Hamas, and Hamas is far, far, far weaker organizationally and militarily than Hezbollah or a lot of these other resistance forces.
Well, there's also a kind of unreality to it. I mean, we've been seeing this month after month. The starvation, the maiming, the killing, the children, the non-combatants killed, the rapes, all of these things, the torture, all of it, they're very open about it. And yet it continues on. The force with the U.S. is the only power that can stop it, but they won't. So Israel sometimes, I think, leads the U.S. by the nose. So they just to make sure that they don't step out of line with even the tiniest bit of criticism, they will blow people up in Lebanon. So it's unreal. And then you have these spokespeople like this Kirby person who, it doesn't matter how horrible the action, it's the same answer. We're going to ask Israel about it, right? We don't know much about it. And here we are, the country that Israel would not even exist without, that Israel could not carry out these crimes without, that Netanyahu's spoken to Congress 4 times. Why does any foreign leader need to speak to Congress 4 times? And we all saw it, jumping up and down, standing ovations, clapping like trained seals. And so there's this unreality. And then, they'll say, Kamala Harris will say, too many Palestinians have died, as if there's a good number of Palestinians who can die. I'm working for a ceasefire, but no, I'll keep giving Israel weapons, which means you're not working towards a ceasefire. So there's an unreality to it as well, as if They want us to doubt what we have been seeing, and of course, the people who stand up are being repressed. So it's unreal. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but I just want to, this obstruction and this support for crimes that we're supposed to ignore. We're supposed to vote for Kamala Harris anyway. Trump doesn't pretend, but Kamala Harris does, and you're scolded if you don't, if you say genocide's a red line. So I'm feeling a kind of an unreality with this as well.
Garland.
Yeah, let me add this. I mean, one of the things you have to understand, and I'll recommend for people who want to understand what the resistance is doing. I love to read a million books. Here's an interesting one, and it's called People's War, People's Army, the Viet Cong Insurrection Manual for Underdeveloped Countries. It's by General Diop, the guy who defeated the French, ran the French out of what was then French Indochina, but it certainly was Vietnam. And basically, when you watch this, it's like they read that manual and they're going bit by bit. They're controlling what the thing that the resistance forces are doing is they are controlling the escalation. Israel is desperate for an escalation. Israel, their perspective is, look, if we can get a big fight and we can drag the United States in, that's the only way that we can fight. We can fight you if it's a big battle with a big front and we drag the United States and all of NATO in it. That's our style. And then we have a chance. And the resistance forces are saying, no, we will fight our style, which is slow with continuous pressure on them. Certainly there's going to be a lot of casualties, but I think that the resistance people also realize that in the style of the West, there'll be millions and millions of more casualties, because then they'll just be able to go city after city after city, bomb and flatten all the cities they want, use nuclear weapons, whatever the case may be. So I think they're controlling the level of escalation, maintaining it in a level that they can control. And I think that it's frustrating the Israelis, because every time they move and they say, okay, if we do this, we know the resistance forces will do that. The resistance forces, they kind of hold back and they punch when they want to punch and they sit back when they sit back. So I think it's that the resistance forces are doing an excellent job. What's interesting is that we've been told all throughout this so-called war on terror. Remember that the Muslims are crazy terrorists. They're inhuman madmen. They're unthinking. They just want to strap a bomb to themselves and kill lots of innocent people. However, if you look at this conflict, the Muslim community, the Muslim leaders, the Muslim world has been very controlled, has been responsible in how they react, has made every effort to lower the number of casualties, has been attacking military targets as opposed to civilian targets. And so what people are seeing is that the imperialists are the monsters. They're exposing themselves as the monsters. And the Muslim community and the Muslim world has exposed themselves as the civilized people who want peace.
Yeah, and I think one point that I try to make, and I'm curious your reaction to this, Margaret, is what Garland is saying, I think, is 100% true. And it points to also the fact that, Hezbollah, Iran, these forces, they have the ability to strike back very, very hard. They have the ability to make life maybe impossible for the Israeli settler regime. But at the same time, in doing so, and I think Hassan Nasrallah in his speech said that, this was a blow to them. And this shows that they do have technological superiority in some respects. But in other respects, in terms of what Garland's talking about, this long kind of resistance war that is fought on their terms, it does also have this impact of keeping the situation, the escalation, as Garland was saying, stable and on their terms, but also avoids what I think would very well be the case if Hezbollah or Iran or all resistance were to step it up their resistance to a certain degree. There would be complete and total devastation and war. That's kind of what Israel is promising and wanting to drag the United States into doing. That seems to be the agenda. Margaret, your thoughts?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. It's funny. I saw someone posting on X who said the same thing. We're always told that the Arabs are crazy maniacs and the West is so civilized. And it's just the opposite. They're shown so much restraint. Hezbollah, Iran, the wild card is Israel and its allies, the U.S. and the collective West, who to a nation defend Israel, who repress speech in their own countries, all these countries which claim to be democracies. Anybody who speaks up against Zionism is repressed. We even have thought crimes now. There are universities that say that the word Zionism is protected speech. And if you criticize Zionism, you can be penalized for hate speech. Students are told, well, even if you protest off campus, you could still be expelled or suspended. So this is what we see. We see one side, as Garland was pointing out, the one that is obeying international law, and the lawless nations being the ones that are in charge because of their interference on behalf of Israel. Their colluding with Israel, as I said, with the ICC and the ICJ, and Israel telling the U.S., help us to discredit the ICJ so they don't finally get around to calling us the genocidaires. So those are the things that I'm thinking about, but I'm also thinking about what we can do, how we can protest. There have been millions of people, I'm not exaggerating either, of people around the world protesting this barbarity, and we've been hit with the hammer. So how do we move forward, knowing that there's going to be repression of speech, that there's going to be repression of our actions? What is it that we have to really think about this very dangerous moment so that we can be possibly effective in bringing these crimes to an end?
Oh, sorry, Garland, you go.
If I might add something else too, what we are told is that Netanyahu wants to expand. This is the story we get, that he wants to expand the war, but the Biden administration, they're certainly reasonable people, and they're trying to fight Netanyahu and stop him from being such a madman, right? In reality, I think that the Biden administration would want a broader war too, because the issues that the Biden administration, the imperialists, have right now with Russia, with China, etc., are first and foremost economic, and they're scared to death of BRICS. And they see the Belt and Road Initiative running all through Africa and the Middle East, where there's all this precious oil. They see countries saying we want to be part of it. They see countries in the Middle East joining, the powerful countries in the Middle East, not just joining the BRICS coalition, but becoming significant nodes in the not poles, but nodes, because a node kind of implies a network, right? An equal network. So you see Iran, Saudi Arabia, some of these other countries, Algeria, becoming very important. I think what the U.S. empire would like to do is get some kind of war going on in that region before the October BRICS meeting, because first and foremost, they want to disrupt BRICS. Don't underestimate how critical the BRICS and the Belt and Road issues are to the Biden administration, the City of London people, etc. They're scared to death of that, and they would be happy to have a war to try to disrupt it.
Yeah. I think that's exactly right. And the United States, you heard John Kirby say that they don't want a war, supposedly, but yet, just similar to Ukraine, but of course different, because the relationship is indeed closer. I think we've seen that over the course of this genocide and this recent instance, this incredibly horrific war crime, terrorist attack in Lebanon, has exposed the fact that the United States attempts to distance itself from these acts, but all of the world knows that the United States is deeply involved with Israel, and that if Israel did this, there's absolutely no way that the United States at least knew about it, let alone perhaps participated and or encouraged this behavior. Any final words on this issue, Margaret?
Well, I think there's division in the U.S. state about how to proceed. We've seen in Ukraine, and there's a connection there. So we've seen in Ukraine this infighting about whether or not Ukraine can send missiles deep into Russia, with the stupid British choosing to involve themselves. Allegedly Blinken and Jake Sullivan and Anthony Blinken disagreeing and others agreeing. It seems like, though, the hardliners eventually win, but we see these tensions within the U.S. I'm sure there are people who, well, actually, they're, these think tanks and whatnot. You see these crazy people saying, we don't have to be afraid of a two-front war. Why do you need a war at all? Especially when they can't get anybody to join up. So I believe there are tensions in the State Department, in the Department of Defense, about these issues. So yes, there are some who want that, and there's some who don't. And then the other wild card is Grandpa still has the keys. We don't know what Biden would. We don't know if he's in his right mind. We don't know. I mean, he's always been someone who loved war. I mean, this bloodshed is all his fault. The first thing he did in last October was run to Israel and give Netanyahu a blank check. But I also think it's true. The BRICS meeting is coming up. We had a just completed summit in Beijing. Every African nation showed up. Everybody got FaceTime with Xi Jinping. And we have seen, and the BRICS are about to meet. The BRICS are expanding. Countries want to. There's like a waiting list to get into the BRICS. And everything the U.S. does, though, weakens itself. So Israel has destroyed the electronics industry in some countries. Everybody wants to buy directly from China and make sure that equipment comes directly from China. So it's the sort of thing where it's inevitable. The multipolar world is a fact. De-dollarization is ultimately going to be a fact. So yes, there are some who want it, but there are risks involved. And we will see who wins. But one thing is certain, the U.S. is going to undermine itself, even as it continues in following this imperialist policy.
Yeah. Well, if I can make one last statement, it's unfortunate, but here's a reality. This is a horrible, unthinkable genocide, and it tears at our heart to watch this, right? But to the imperialists, this is nothing. To them, they're looking at the Israelis saying, "Man, you guys are junior genociders. You really have." I mean, look at what happened in Syria. Somewhere between 600,000 and 700,000 deaths as a result of Obama's dirty war. Look at what happened in Iraq. 1 million deaths. I mean, and you can just go on, and you can go. There's a great book called The Jakarta Method. I don't know what to call it. Great. Look what they did in Indonesia. I mean, throughout Latin America, on and on and on. So if you look at what's probably now a couple 100,000 deaths, as horrible as that is, we're able to see it now. We're able to get information, same day information and details on it, and get pictures and video. And so we can be horrified by it. But the imperialists and the colonialists in the US and in Europe, they've been doing this stuff for centuries, and much worse than this. In fact, I would argue they're probably looking at us, so as we're upset over it, as we're disgusted and devastated by this, they're probably saying, guys, what? We don't even understand. This is a small genocide as compared to what we really do normally, but we can see it now. And so this makes it the horror of what they have been doing for centuries is being brought home to us by the ability of technology to get the information out in real time now.
Thank you for tuning in to my latest video. I appreciate all of your support. This channel, however, needs your help. I am seeking to make this channel more sustainable in the long term and upgrade necessary equipment to ensure that this work continues onward and makes progress to give you all of the geopolitical analysis that you all deserve. For that reason, I'm asking you to become a member of my Patreon community at patreon.com/DannyDhaiphong. You can find that link in the video description or in the pinned comment below. For whatever amount you choose to give, just know you are supporting independent media that you can't find anywhere else. Thank you so much, and I look forward to the next video.